into the GA Scumbags, episode number 4 of your crazy uncle's favorite Duke football podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Tyler Lester, being joined by Noah Lunsford. And Noah, exciting news from this podcast forward. We're going to have a third co-host if you want to introduce him a little bit.
So we've got a absolute legend joining us as our third and final partner on the show. I think we made this decision that it was going to be the best for the unit as a whole. Having Eli Hartso on board with us, just a Duke football fanatic, aficionado, legend, some might say. So Eli, everybody give it up for Eli. Eli, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Appreciate it, boys. Yeah, I'm excited to be, joining the podcast and just being able to speak about Duke football in a space where, it's kind of no holds barred, no cookie cutter, no sugarcoating. But yeah, I mean, my fandom for Duke goes back to 2008, Cutcliffe's first year. We got a hold of every year Duke does an employee game where employees and their families get free tickets. And first game I ever went to was Cutcliffe's first game. I believe it was the first game of the year against JMU. I remember there was like a long weather delay and these like skydiving guys dove onto the field and then ran off during pregame because they were supposed to land at Carolina, but they ended up going to Duke by accident. That's my biggest memory from that game. But yeah, I mean, I've grown up like going to, I don't know, one, two, maybe three games a year when I was younger. And like I knew the guys, like I knew the stars, I knew what was going on, I knew the record. I remember the 2013 season and how exciting that was. Um, but it didn't really get super ramped up until the last couple of years. I, finally got my own money and I decided I could go to games whenever I wanted. Went to the Clemson game with my dad last year and just lost my voice, just screaming the whole time. And I remember going into that game thinking if we could just lose within 14 points, that'd be a W for me. And then obviously we all know what happened. And from that point forward, I was like, all right, I'm all in. Like, started going to all the games, buying up a bunch of merch, buying up autographs, reading about the history, this and that. Joined the Section 17 Duke football Facebook group on Facebook. And that's actually how I met Tyler and Noah. We became buddies on there, raising hell. I mean, causing problems with some of the old guard. But we all bonded over just, wanting the best for Duke football and remembering the struggle days and savoring the great days that we have ahead of us. But yeah, I'm excited to be part of this podcast.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, if you don't follow Eli on Twitter, he might be the most controversial member of Duke football Twitter to ever exist. Carolina fans have kind of taken onto his side the last day or day and a half because of a tweet he just put out. But I mean, no one stirs the pot like Eli does. He fits right in, and like he said, me, Noah, and him all kind of took up with each other. It was kind of like last season, kind of at the halfway point. We all just like the Section 17 Facebook page, common enemy, the OG, like actual scumbag, Barry Bum, hope he's having a terrible day. Kind of got it all started. And so it's really good to have Eli on here now. And he's going to be on every episode from here on out with me and Noah as long as he can be. But to get into today's episode a little bit, we're going to kind of keep it short. It's going to be a 4th of July themed episode. We're going to talk about the Rose Bowl, and then we're going to dive into 5 Blue Devils. We each wanted our own 4th of July cookout and who we believe is the most patriotic Blue Devil. We're going to touch up on the group of 5 teams a little bit and kind of give a detail on maybe some teams to watch out there. We're going to deep dive a lot of recruiting news since we last recorded an episode. I think at least 10 commits since we last recorded. We're going to jump into the mailbag and then scumbag of the week for the week. So without further ado, Noah, I know you wanted to talk about the Rose Bowl some, so I'll let you lead off with that one.
All right, guys. So a little bit of history with the Rose Bowl that not many people may know, and it kind of got ruined by COVID. It makes it a little bit less like I guess standalone-ish. But the Rose Bowl in its entirety has only been played twice outside of Pasadena. The second time it was played outside of Pasadena was in 2020, the COVID year. It was played in Texas. Not really a memorable game. Nobody can really tell you anything about that. But the first ever Rose Bowl to not be played in Pasadena was actually played at Wallace Wade Stadium. That is, of course, where we reside. If any of us ever die young, that's where we definitely want our ashes spread at. And it's pretty cool to know that Duke and Oregon State, back during the World War II era, after the bombing on Pearl Harbor happened, we felt like it wasn't safe to hold any sporting events on the West Coast, which, whatever. And it worked out well because Duke, being on the opposite, and Wallace Wade and the Blue Devils being such a powerhouse at that time, ended up being able to host the first ever Rose Bowl that wasn't in Pasadena. So very cool. There's a lot of history that goes into it, and the game itself didn't work out all that well, but hopefully we'll get us a rematch here eventually. Would love to play Oregon State again. So
Yeah, the Beavers have been ducking us for like 50, 60 years now. It's getting a little old. And to those of you that don't follow any of us on Twitter, Oregon State was actually one of the first Twitter beefs like the three of us ever had. I don't know if you guys remember that or not last year, but
Yep.
somehow we pissed off the Oregon State fans like early.
Malik Murphy.
Yeah, that
That
was
yep,
it. Yeah, we
they
were all
all
kind of
thought we were
fighting
gonna
about
cancel.
like who's gonna get Malik, Oregon State or Duke, and we were getting into it with this one dude, and like things may have gotten a little bit out of hand on a couple occasions, but we ended up coming out on top, so the beef was settled once he came to Duke.
Yeah, Malik Murphy, since they won't play us, I feel like Malik Murphy coming to Duke over Oregon State is at least a little bit of revenge for back in the day.
Just a
But
small lick.
yeah, it's not a Rose Bowl victory and a claimed national championship, but Malik Murphy might get us to one, so we can live with it.
So,
So go ahead.
oh, is it me?
Oh, I thought you were going to say something.
Oh, I thought I heard Eli. My bad. But yeah, I've got something. We'll have to just edit that part out. But anyways, so a little bit more history about Wallace Wade himself and the Rose Bowl. Wallace Wade is actually a Hall of Fame Rose Bowl like member. He's a member of the Rose Bowl Hall of Fame, which is a pretty exclusive club. Like if you know anything about Pasadena and about the postseason, the Rose Bowl is the granddaddy of them all for a reason. Like it's the most important, just the biggest spectacle on earth. It's a great bowl game. And his Wallace Wade's first trip to Pasadena, his last trip, 1942, with the Blue Devils. His first trip was in 1916. And I would give any person that could answer this a free ticket to a game next year. What team did Wallace Wade go with in 1916?
As a player, or as a coach?
He was on the squad, so he wasn't a coach. He was a player at this point.
Beats me then. I don't know.
Brown University,
Oh
absolute
boy.
football powerhouse, played Wazoo, baby,
Wow.
Wazoo in the second ever Rose Bowl game. So Wade also went to the Rose Bowl in 1926, 27, 31, 33, and 42, all as coaches. Won a couple with Alabama, and just did a lot of good back then. So very proud, and a lot of good history there with 4th of July coming up, and what it means to be free and enjoy college football for what it is every weekend and get to sit out there and listen to the anthem and everything. It's very cool to know that Wallace Wade and what Duke did that year and how important that is to the history of the Rose Bowl. It's awesome that Duke was a part of that.
And Noah, another one of my favorite fun facts about the Rose Bowl, you might know this. When they played it at Wallace Wade in 1942, at the time, Wallace Wade was the second largest sports venue in the South, which is crazy to think about. But it
Indeed.
still only had 35,000 seats or bleachers. So what they did was to expand the capacity temporarily was they brought in extra bleachers from Carolina and NC State, their respective stadiums, to expand the capacity by 20,000, which
Very,
is
very wild right there. I mean, that's just how big of a show it was. Like even
mhm.
back then in the 40s and like back in the 40s, logistically, like how tough is it to move a whole event from Pasadena to Durham, North Carolina, the entire event, everything that goes on with the Rose Bowl, all of it, and try to move it within, a month and a half. So very cool that, State and Carolina respectively also stepped up to the plate to make that happen.
Yeah, we're very appreciative of our little brothers for that maneuver. Nice gesture there.
And
But
I mean,
it's wild to think about. Like Eli said, you know, we were the biggest, second largest stadium in the South at the time, and this is going to make Eli mad. But Noah, you know what else we had back then around around the field?
The track. The track.
The track was still around the field back then. But yeah, it's really cool. Like you said, COVID kind of takes away some of the luster from it, but still it kind of doesn't, because to be able to tell people and walk into Wallace Wade, and they've kind of, if you go on the home side in the concourse, there's like a little what's the word I'm looking for, like a little memorial kind of dedicated to it. But I feel like Duke doesn't get acknowledged for it enough. Like that's something that we should be touting as like cool about Duke. Like, hey, we've hosted a Rose Bowl, and I feel like not enough Duke football fans know that.
yeah,
And I feel like that falls on Duke. Like that's something you should promote like every chance you get.
I agree. But yeah, like you said, they do have those roses out in the front by the bust of Wallace Wade, with a plaque kind of commemorating it. But I feel like they should have something a little bit more like front and center to kind of stand out a little bit more.
Yeah, you almost have to like know where you're going to like find the Rose Bowl like thing. It's not something where like you walk in the stadium, you're like, oh wow, look, Duke hosted the Rose Bowl. You have to like seek it out.
So this is also kind of a pretty wild fact to just show you like how different America was and like our journey for freedom as like a whole population. For the Rose Bowl, all 56,000 tickets with the additional seating sold out in 3 days. Um, Duke back in the day, like in the 40s. So I mean, this is still deep in the racial divide. Duke usually had a reserved area of tickets for African Americans, and Duke was initially not going to let them attend, but apparently, with I guess essentially from what I've read, is the Carolina Times was Durham's African American newspaper, and essentially they claimed that Duke was going to sell tickets to the Japanese but not African Americans. So Duke reversed its decision and officially sold out and released over 150 tickets to the African American fans in Durham, which is just crazy to think about. Like one of the most, like forward thinking progressive schools in the world, even back in the 40s, was subject to, just blatant, just racism. Pretty crazy.
I genuinely had no idea that was even. Noah's done his homework today, guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Noah's been deep in his bag.
I'm in my bag, boys.
His bag, not a bag. There's a big difference for him.
Whoa. Whoa.
All right. So
hold your judgment, Benny.
Look, I was going to make that joke when you started talking about the 150 tickets, but I decided not to.
Yeah, good call.
So, all right. So next, how do y'all want to do? We want to go one at a time here, or do we kind of want to list all five in a row and then give feedback for the 5 Blue Devils we want at a cookout?
Yeah, let's just keep flinging it around one at a time.
All right, Eli, we'll let you name your first one. That you'd want at your own 4th of July cookout.
All right. So do you want me to list my most patriotic Blue Devil first, or the 5 that I'd want to cook out first?
We'll do.
We're gonna do the cookout first. Just do like one, like we'll each say one apiece until we list off our 5. Tyler, just reset up the entrance to that so we can edit this part out.
All right. So we're gonna bring up 5 Blue Devils that you want at your 4th of July cookout, and then we're gonna talk about our most patriotic Blue Devil that we can think of. So Eli, we'll go one at a time here. Who's your first guest on your list of 5?
My first guest on my list of 5 Blue Devils that I want at a cookout. It's got to be. It might surprise y'all, but Todd Polino. I feel like
Big Rod Todd.
Big Rod Todd. I feel like Todd is one of those dudes who comes from like that Southern money, which means he knows how to throw down. He knows how to put on a good house party. So yeah, I think Todd is my first choice to have at a cookout.
Very, very respectable. You know, the Polito family, they're great people. They're upstate South Carolina homebodies as well. So those people know how to get down up there.
Yep.
For me, my first guy that I would want at a cookout, and it's kind of for the same similar reasoning, is Ben Humphreys. You know, Ben's that kind of guy he's gonna come tap you on the shoulder at some point of the cookout, be like, "Hey, buddy, let's go to the basement real quick. You know, got something for you." And you know, he's that vibe, and that is something I can appreciate. So I'm definitely going with Ben Humphreys as one of my five.
That's solid. Ben is an OG, and real quick to go back to Polino, I won't lie. Polino was number 6 on my list, and we get to number 5, you'll understand why. But number 1 on my list, how can you not invite Coach Feely? That dude would be such a great time to have a beer with at a cookout. Like, I just envision like him just, first off, I bet you he's hell at cornhole. I would pick him every single time in cornhole because he might kill the guy that beats him. So just intimidation alone, we're gonna run every cornhole tournament. But yeah, Coach Feely's my number 1.
All
For
right,
me,
Eli, who you got up next, brother?
all right. I'm gonna go Coach K. No, I'm just kidding. No, keep that guy away from my parties. I'm gonna go with Trey Freeman. I kind of made this list more like current players, but I chose Trey. One, he's just a good dude. He's fun to be around. He's a nice guy, but also part of the decision was also his parents. If you spend any time around Tamika and I believe it's Tony, they're just so much fun to be around. Just salt of the earth people. They just bring the vibes. They bring the laughs. They're so much fun to talk to and just hang out with. And I think Trey would be number 2 on my list.
So Trey, you just know Tamika and Tony would be a good time at the cookout, man. You know, like they're gonna bring a nice little bottle of something. It's gonna be a good time. I mean, they're genuinely some of the nicest people I've ever had the pleasure of getting to speak to before. So shout out Mama and Papa Freeman for real. My number 2, and this one, it's got some great reasoning to it. Give me Josh Sneed. Now, Josh Sneed, if you guys do not know, very successful in like the dental world now. But if you follow Josh Sneed on Instagram, on the side, down in like Lumberton, North Carolina, where he was born and raised, he does weekend seafood fries
Oh
with his
hell yeah!
own. He has his own seasoning that he's marketing and selling now. Him and his like cousins and brothers, his whole family, man, they get out there and they sell them fried fish plates, man. And like, if there's one guy I need manning the food station, I need the Sneed family. I need Josh and all the homies to come for sure.
That's a really damn what solid guess. All right, so this next one's kind of a cop out. It's 3 people wrapped into one. But I'm going with the Finas simply because you got Father Fina, Tony. He's a member of the Buffalo Bills, and if there's one thing Bills Mafia knows how to do, it's party. And then his 2 kids. You got Bruno and Roman. They're offensive linemen. Offensive linemen know food. They know how to drink. They know how to have a good time. So I'm going to bring the whole Fina family to mind.
Hey, and shout out Papa Fina for being a follower and a supporter of the GA Scumbags. Means a lot, man. We appreciate the support.
Oh
And,
man,
and
yeah. I mean, his sons have barely been here. Like they haven't even played a single down for Duke football yet, and he's already like mixed up in the recruiting and like involved in Duke football Twitter. I mean, you gotta love it. I love it. I
Yeah,
love the passion.
absolutely.
Well, my third option would be Grayson Loftus. I just think that Grayson is the kind of dude who doesn't play when it comes to the 4th of July. I think Grayson, being from South Carolina, definitely has partaken in some not so legal firework shows and parties. I think that kind of dude is going to throw down at any given party, but especially when it comes to the 4th of July. Kind of dude who is going to give you hell if you're not standing for the anthem type of thing. So, yeah, give me Grayson Loftus for my 4th of July party.
Such a solid pick because like if there's one thing about Gaffney, South Carolina, is that like Gaffney parties, and it's a very large group of people. And if they find a piece of land that's not in harvest, and they can go put their trucks and start a fire, Gaffney's gonna have a good time. So 100%, that one's on the money. My next guy, and this is also a friend of the pod, but also an OG friend from Shelby High School, Shelby, North Carolina, Carlos Ray. Carlos Ray,
Go.
you got just a goat, man. We appreciate the follow, all the support and everything. But as a kid, I had some family in the Shelby area, so been to some Shelby football games. Got to see Carlos Ray before Carlos Ray was everywhere at number 98 at Duke. And one thing about Carlos Ray is down there in Shelby, North Carolina, they can absolutely I mean, like a football game in Shelby is like what you see in Texas, like the tailgate, the barbecuing, the grilling. You got you got unks out there with smokers at like 5 a.m, putting on Boston Buds, all that stuff.
I can attest that regional football and Shelby football meet like every year in the state playoffs. And when we have to make the trip to Shelby from up here, I love it. I love going to watch a ball game out that way.
All right, boys. My fourth invite.
Hey. Whoa. I still get to make my pick.
I zoned out. I'm so sorry, Tyler. I zoned out.
Eli he hasn't been here for one episode and he's trying to take over already.
My bad, Tyler.
I respect it. So my third one, I'm surprised that no one said this one yet. My third one's got to be Malik Murphy. He's from California. He's been to Texas. He's been to big states. And when you just watch him, like, he's a fun guy. He has one of those, like, infectious personalities, you know? Like, I feel like he'd be such a good time to have at a party. And he's got lots of money now.
Solid pick. I agree with that one, actually. I wish I thought of that for mine. All right. So my fourth option to invite to my 4th of July party would be my boy, a guy I've actually gotten to interact with a lot lately, is Nick Morris Jr. Feel like that's a kid who is definitely somebody you want by your side when you're going out to the clubs, to the bars. I feel like he can get down, but he's going to be loyal and always have your back. And I feel like he's somebody you would want at your party. So give me Nick Morris Jr.
Old Nick, man, friend of the pod. We fuck with you, Nick. Can't wait to watch you ball, man. My fourth, and this is kind of along the lines of somebody you'd want to go to the afters with after your 4th of July party. You know, you're back in your local hometown, the dive bar's calling, the girls you ain't talked to in 5 years are back. You know, everything's perfect, but you need your wingman. Give me Corbin freaking McCarthy, baby. Give me Corbin, Mr. Bag McCarthy. There's no way anybody could tell me that Corbin McCarthy wasn't snorting something before football games in 2016.
I can't even argue with that one. My 4th selection, shout out Eli, is going to be Nicky Dalmullen.
Oh, that was my 5th one.
Like, you got to have a tight end. Like, tight ends are the most fun people in the world because they get the offensive lineman personality traits of, you know, just being like partiers, drinkers, guys that just love like food, with like the joy of being a wide receiver and kind of like the aura that comes with a skill position guy. So like it's got to be Nicky. And I won't lie. Shout out to Mr. Hazley. It was almost Jeremiah. So I wanted to include Jeremiah, but I went with Nicky instead. But shout out Mr. Hazley, friend of the pod as well.
Well, Nicky was going to be my 5th option, but yeah, it's Nicky Dalmullen. I feel like that's, from what I've heard from Noah with his stories about Nicky and, you know, hanging out with him after games. I feel like Nicky's the kind of guy you would want in your space, whether it's at a party at your house for the 4th of July or you're in the bars, you're in shooters or something. I feel like Nicky's one of those guys you want. Dude. So yeah, give me Nicky Dalmullen as well.
100% can attest that meeting Nicky Dalmullen at shooters, and you know, not gonna say if we had a Diet Coke or if we had a shot of Fireball. I'm not gonna disclose what we had, but you know, it's probably the latter half of that. And dude was just the nicest, coolest guy in the world. You'd have thought we knew each other for like 15 years. I mean, we were there, like, it was one of my buddy's bachelor parties the first time I'd ever met him. That was the night I met Cole, Dwayne, and everybody. And we were golfing at the Washington Duke. And like after, we went to the bars that night. We just were sitting there like talking ball, and like I literally just looked at him. I was like, "Dude, you're Nicky Dalmole." And he was like, "Yeah, man, what's up?" I was like, "Dude, love you, love how you play tight end, dude." I was like, "Big fan." He was like, "Damn." He was like, I never really get like recognized at the bar, and I was like, that was crazy to me because like these guys. Ever since I was a kid, and it hasn't changed now. It's just the utmost respect for like what they do to try and make Duke relevant. So very cool guys. And Nikki is a class act and a very good time at the bar, no doubt. But so my fifth is Tacoby Cofield. Tacoby, it was between him and Jamaican, Lakin the Jamaican, whenever I was younger, like 2013 season where we parked at, Tacoby Cofield's parents and Lakin Tomlinson's parents set up their tailgate right near it. And got to meet them, and man, like yet again, like if I just know somebody's gonna bring like a couple of good side items and a really good case of beer, like it's gonna be them.
Oh, absolutely. All right, so my fifth one. Let me preface this by saying this is all a joke. I don't mean a single word of it. It's going to be memorable factor. Why? Because he's from England, and to bring him to a 4th of July cookout and just rib on him like all night long about how squash his country would be like the funniest thing in the world to me. So
memorable factor, blew a 13 colony lead.
Yeah, exactly. Like that is, love him to death. He has like, one of the best names in football, but that's like low hanging fruit, but I had to take it. So memorable factor would be my fifth one. So off of that, before we get into our mailbag, one of the mailbag questions we looked at was actually relevant to what we were going to talk about in the pod anyways. So Ryan Parsons, one of like the best question givers we have, Ryan said, "What G5 schools are you guys looking at as dark horses for the CFP?" And he said he's thinking Tulane, and that's a solid guess. But we're going to twist Ryan's question here, and we're just each going to like quickly rattle off 3 G5 schools that we think to look out for this year that could have good years. We haven't discussed this, so we may have like the exact same 3, all 3 of us. We don't know. Eli, we'll let you name your 3 schools first, and then we'll go Noah and then me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I hate to be this guy, but I'm not as in tune with the G5 as I am with, mostly I think I follow the ACC more than anybody else. But I think from like a very, very casual standpoint, I think the 3 names that speak to me are, like you said, Tulane, App State. I mean, obviously I'm not as much, I'm not as in tune with App as Noah is, but obviously, like whenever they play Carolina, they give them a run for their money, and I think that speaks volumes. So, give me App State as another dark horse, and then the third one would probably be Liberty. I mean, Liberty just kind of balled out last season, and they honestly they were in a better bowl game than Duke was, and I think that's really impressive. So, give me Tulane, App, and Liberty.
Pretty solid list right there. I definitely agree with Tulane and App. Liberty, we'll see. I mean, they're with that Conference USA strength of schedule. If they go, I mean, there's no reason they shouldn't be undefeated. So we'll see how they get like judged this year because Oregon blew the brakes off of them in that bowl game with an undefeated record. So we'll see how it goes this season. But I've got 2 kind of not sleepers and 2 sleepers. My guys I don't think are sleepers is App and Boise State. Both those teams feel like they were really young last year and still rattled off bowl seasons, 8, 9 wins. App's true freshman quarterback last year, Joey Aguilar, kid was an animal. And just to see what he's going to do this upcoming season as a sophomore with a full season under his belt, a Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year, Sun Belt MVP, and leading the Mountaineers to a 1 or 2 loss season at max is what I foresee there. And same case with Boise, man. You just can't count out the Broncos. And my sleepers are UAB, Trent Dilfer, for any of our sickos out there that know Trent Dilfer. He
49ers legend Trent Dilfer.
Yeah, he is the head coach at UAB, and in his first year last year, took them to a bowl game. So, let's give up some love for Trent. Maybe something's cooking down in Birmingham, I mean, let's go Green Dragons. And my other sleeper is Butch Jones and Arkansas State, man. I got a feeling they got hot last year, made a bowl game, won the bowl game. We could see an easy 10-2 kind of year.
Yeah, those are actually all really solid. To really quick go back to Liberty, like Eli said, the one thing we can't forget about Liberty is while we're all very happy with Manny Diaz, Liberty has the one thing that the three of us really wanted, and that's Jamie Chadwell.
Jamie
So
Chiz.
as long as they've got Jamie Chadwell, I won't say a bad word about the Flames. Um, and also to talk about UAB real quick, I couldn't make the trip. You guys did. Uh, to be a bit like they've got a really nice stadium too. Like if they win some games with that stadium down there, they could like start to make a big run as like a serious program at that level. I feel
Yeah,
like.
you wouldn't realize that UAB's football program canceled for like 5 years in the late 2010s into early 2020s. When you look at that new stadium, you would think they had been like a powerhouse and got like some money to upgrade, but it's literally, I mean, they didn't exist 4 years ago. I mean, they completely cut their football program. So to see what Dilfer's done, man, it's been very, very impressive.
All right, and so my three G5 teams, I just kind of went a little bit out there because I figured we'd all, App State's the given. So I didn't include App State simply because they're just going to be good. I went Boise. Boise's been down the last 2 or 3 years, but Boise's going to get right. They're going to have one of the best running backs in the country. By the way, for those of you that don't know, Boise is going to be really, really good. They've also got Malachi Nelson coming in at quarterback, who's a former 5-star recruit. So I mean, like the talent's going to be there. My other two, Noah, you'll appreciate this one. Texas State. Texas State didn't lose a lot last year, and they won.
Hey.
Was it nine? Was it 9 or 10 games? It was
With
9, right?
with the bowl game, yeah, it was 9-4.
Yeah. So like, and that's a program that up until last year had legitimately done nothing. So I think there's some momentum going down there, and this last one could be a future ACC school for in a little while.
Oh, Jesus.
USF, the USF Bulls. I think just by looking at their schedule, if they beat Memphis, they're going to win 10 games this year. So by default, I'm going to say them as one of my other ones. So I'm going to go with USF, Boise State, and Texas State. And real quick, before we get into recruiting, we got to go back because I forgot about this part. Noah, we'll start with you on this one.
Oh
We
yeah,
forgot
story
that we
time.
our most patriotic Blue Devil was going to be.
All right, grandkids, let's all come sit around Grandpa's lap. The most patriotic Blue Devil I've ever met, and just a dog, coolest guy I've ever met. No, I mean nobody I've ever met like at a bar, whether it's at Duke, Charlotte, Asheville, Boone, anywhere. Cole Finney, bro. My first time
Damn.
ever, every time, the first time I ever met Cole Finney, I was yet again at Shooters with the boys. If you've been to Shooters, you know that to go smoke a ciggy, whenever you get a nice buzz and you need that cig, you walk up the staircase to where the top bar is, you walk out the back door and go smoke on that back ledge. Well, me and my buddy Jordan, shout out Jordan, fan of the pod. He's out on the USS George Washington right now. Happy Independence Day, brother. Thanks for protecting and serving. We went out to go have a cig, and some dude literally just grabs my shoulder. Like I felt like I was about to get punched. Like if somebody was going to grab you and turn you around and hit you. And like I just turn around, and it's Cole Finney. He's like, dude, do you have a cigarette? And I gave Cole a cig, and we ended up standing outside smoking like 8 in a row. And patriotism to me is drunk cigarettes. So I mean it's Cole Finney all day, boys. There's nothing more patriotic than a drunk cigarette at Shooters. Like, come on.
All right, Eli, I'll let you go with yours next.
Damn, I don't have a cool story to go with mine. I don't have like a late night drunken experience story behind mine. Mine was just going to be one of the guys I would invite to my cookout. Was going to be Grayson Loftus. I mean, I feel like that's the kind of dude who definitely walks around wearing like those Under Armour like Freedom 1776 shirts, the ones that say like "Come and take it" with a machine gun on it. type of dude who, will go on Twitter and like was on Twitter like in 2016 complaining about Colin Kaepernick. I feel like I feel like Grayson definitely takes the cake as the most what you would call patriotic Blue Devil.
Yeah, there. It's hard to argue with that logic too, because his Twitter's comical.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's it. That's solid. All right, so for mine, I kind of did some research here, and this is a real throwback answer. So if we have any old heads that listen, you might like this one. I'm going with John McNabb. John
Oh my
McNabb
God.
played. John McNabb played at Duke from '62 to '66, and he was an All-American offensive lineman in 1965. But after he graduated, he was commissioned into the Air Force as a B-66 bomber and received an award for the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Air Medal when he served in Vietnam. And that's just badass to go from an offensive
Damn.
lineman to flying a B-66.
I
So
love
like
him.
I don't know that it gets much better than that. So for that reason alone, I'm going to go John McNabb. And if he somehow has ever found this, John, we love you.
John's the coolest. Probably that might be the coolest thing a Duke Blue Devil has ever done. Ever. Like in any capacity. Like
Like
honestly, a Duke medical student could probably find the cure to cancer and I would be less impressed.
like you go from being an all American offensive lineman to then you just decide, I'm going to go serve in the military and fly a bomber during the Vietnam War and win two separate medals awards. That's just like badass. I don't know how you top that as a
Uh,
Duke career. But so following that, I don't know if you guys have kept up or not, but the month of June was massive for Duke recruiting. Looking right now, I'm going to count them up. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 recruits that committed in the month of June alone to bring Duke's recruiting class total up to 23 total recruits. And fittingly enough, we're 23rd in the country for recruiting class rankings for next year's class. So I guess first thing we'll go over is we'll go Eli, we'll go you, then Noah. Were there any like names or certain positions that we got this last month that really jumped out to either one of you guys?
Yeah, actually, to me, the most recent, and I think that Caleb Krings from Elon, offensive line, I think that that's a spot on the roster that's probably the most like prone to like being weak or being exploited as a weak spot. Just because, I mean, shit, you lose two guys to the draft. I mean, that's a big deal from the offensive line alone. But I think that any moves that we can make on the offensive line are going to be, good at least, regardless of what their star rating is or anything. I just think any moves that we can make on the offensive line to get more depth is a good thing. But Caleb sticks out to me. He's a big dude, 6'3", 285. I think he's a guy who's going to come in and probably make some immediate impact. Um, I forget, was Star Thomas in June? I forget.
Yes, Star committed after our last pod.
Yeah, okay. So Star is another dude that I'm excited about. I think if there's one spot on the roster that's just got a lot of depth and good depth at that, it's definitely the running back room. I think starting with Jaquez, Peyton Jones, Star Thomas. I mean, I think those guys could be like a serious three-headed monster going into games. So Star Thomas and Caleb Krings are the two that recent ones that I'm the most excited about.
So I'm gonna pick. I've got two from the upcoming recruiting class. So they won't be here like the transfer guys this season, but I've got them for next year. But we really recruited the state of Georgia well in the month of June, especially. We were really hot in Pennsylvania early in the year. I feel like Manny had a lot of almost guys that were getting ready to commit to Penn State before he took the job. And his kind of first course of action was to get them to Duke, and they all signed pretty early. And now that he's hitting some more pipeline states, we banged two wide receivers, Garrett Kemp and Javion Solomon. Now, Tyler, you know this about me. If there's one thing I love about a receiver, that is height. Height, height,
Amen.
height. I don't care. I don't want 5'10" receivers. I don't want 5'10" corners. If you're going to be 5'10", you better be an All-American 5'10", because if you ain't, I ain't got much for you. But Garrett Kemp is 6'3", 185, heading into his senior season. 6'3", 185. He's going to come to Duke 6'4", 195 minimum. Javion Solomon, little smaller, but still to be a junior in high school, 6'1", 175 pounds. I mean, you talk about two dudes that Manny like saw a position where Chase Tyler is kind of the standalone guy in about 2 years. There's not much that would be there unless Manny went out and got it. And getting Kemp and Solomon to come in, and in 2 years we have a core of those guys and Chase Tyler, like, bro, it's gonna be unfair.
Yeah, we were both big fans of Chase Tyler when he committed. And we kind of share the same sentiment on if you're going to play wide receiver or cornerback for our school, we want size. We've seen too many times the small DBs that just get mossed when we play the bigger schools. It gets old fast. My favorite recruit we got, and this is just off of pure necessity. When I look at next year, is going to be Elliot Schaper from Austin, Texas. He's a 3-star middle linebacker. He's the 90th ranked linebacker in the class for next year. And the reason I'm so high on him is Trey's got a year left but Trey's gone. I don't, barring like the worst scenario possible, I don't see a world where Trey Freeman isn't going in the first or second round of the draft this coming up year. And after him, we've got 2 or 3 guys coming in that are going to be grad transfers, and we've got Nick Morris. So there's a big hole at linebacker next year. Right now, it would be Nick Morris, the memorable factor, and then that would be it.
Don't forget our boy Derek Brown Jr. as well, 24 commit dog.
But
him and Elliott could be running this show in a few years for sure.
I think Derek Brown might play more on like the defensive line.
I hope not, dude. I think if we just need to thin him up a bit. Feely gets him to drop 10 pounds, but keep the muscle. He would be one of the greatest linebackers in Duke history. The kid's an athlete. He's just a tad oversized.
Also, speaking of linebacker, I may be off here, but I'm looking over like the transfer list. What about Alex Howard from Texas A&M?
He never played a snap for A&M. He transferred to A&M before Elko got hired. Then when Elko got hired, he had already signed his papers, so he transferred again, but to Duke. But from what I know, he's a very athletic, like really good pass coverage backer. Probably going to be playing more of like an outside flat coverage, zone coverage kind of drop scheme player.
Yeah, because it looks like he was a 3-star coming out of high school, and he's about 6'2", 230. So, I mean, shit. If he was recruited by Texas A&M, I'm curious. I'm curious to see what he can do.
I definitely think him and Trey Freeman will be a great yin and yang on the field this year. You could definitely see like Trey kind of, being there for the run responsibility. Now Trey's also great in the pass. Don't get me wrong, not knocking that at all. Dude's a stud on the zone hook curl, on man-to-man tight end coverage. I mean, he's an athlete. Trey Freeman is an athlete. But Alex Cooper's game is essentially like he's as talented as a safety or corner, but he's just fucking huge. So like he's just in a linebacker build.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be the best probably 1-2 that we've had starting at linebacker together since Humphreys and Joe Giles Harris.
Yeah, probably. Without a doubt.
Like in terms of 1-2 punches, like it's going to be a really fun one. And the other commit, I know I mentioned him earlier, that I'm excited about is Roman Fina. Now, he's got a lot of work to do when he gets here. Out of Arizona, he's ranked 130th nationally for tackles in the class. But just establishing that pipeline, like we got his brother in here. Now we've got Roman coming in. I think obviously Manny sees something in that family, and John, their dad, was an all-pro, like Pro Bowl offensive lineman with the Buffalo Bills, so they breathe like that's their game. So I'm really excited to see what Roman turns out to be once he gets here. And again, not to harp on it, but shout out John. Like that guy loves Duke football already. He is like on Twitter, like constantly, adding recruits that are committing every day, like reposting stuff that Manny put. Like that guy is all in on Duke, and I love that from a father that like hasn't even had a kid play a snap for our program yet. The Bills Mafia to Duke football connection is really starting to become a thing between him and my goat Dwayne Carter, who's now a Buffalo Bill. Sorry, Eli, we don't have any 49ers at the moment.
It's okay. I'll just cling on to the days when Laken Tomlinson was there, and then
Trench warfare.
yeah, when Thad was there as a backup during the dark ages.
That's such a deep cut.
Oh my God, Thad Lewis is the backup on the Niners in 2016. God,
that is so scary.
He was a starter for the Buffalo Bills.
That's even worse.
I can one up it as much as I love Thad. He was a starter for the Buffalo Bills.
Hey, Sean Renfrey started 6 games for the Atlanta Falcons, son. Nobody can tell me the dream. We are at QBU. We are so QBU. Oklahoma can hold those Heismans, baby. We've got Sean Renfrey, Thad Lewis, Daniel Jones.
Yes, sir.
And soon to be Malik Murphy.
Oh, yeah, right. That'll be the first one that's ever good.
No, man, I remember back in the day getting Madden 25 or Madden 13 and like logging in and seeing like Connor Vernon on the game as like a 56 overall and like Sean Renfrey and there being like a 62 overall. I'd be like, oh my God, these guys played at Duke and being so hype. I felt so represented.
Put them in the lineup as starters and shit for no reason. Bench 99 bias. Michael Vick or 99 Matt Ryan for Sean Renfrey. Watch out, Matt Schwab. Get ready to learn Sean Renfrey.
Oh, man. Right, Thad backed up Blaine Gabbert with the Niners. Oh.
God, that's literally makes somebody's ears bleed.
It's a cursed QB room.
Yeah, hearing that sentence is going to make us jump segments now because, oh, my God. Blaine Gabbert just got mentioned on the pod.
Blaine Gabbert mentioned Mizzou, baby. Mizzou. Mizzou. Woo!
All right, so we're going to jump into the mailbag now, and we've got actually quite a few questions. The first one I want to go to, our boy Drew Chesh. And, if you haven't listened to the last episode yet, Drew killed it when he was on here. We all love Drew to death.
Drew's coming back on.
This is gonna bring up some probably bad feelings for Noah here. But he said, Coke 600 rainout themed. If you could pick a Duke football game to be declared over at some point after halftime due to, quote, humidity on the field, which one would it be? And Drew said he's torn between Notre Dame from last year or the Miami Kick 6 game. So, Eli, we'll let you go, and then we'll go Noah and me.
That's a great question.
So is the game being called right after halftime, like the way the score was? Coming out of halftime?
So I'm going to take Drew's question as at any point during the second half.
Okay, then yeah. I mean, both games carried so much importance, right? Like you guys talk about after that Miami game, just Duke just wasn't the same after that season. But I mean, we all know just how much that Notre Dame game meant last year. Give me Notre Dame, even if it is maybe a recency bias. I mean, just college game day. We were ranked in the top 20. We would have been 5-0. We would have been ranked top 10 probably. Riley wouldn't have gotten hurt. I mean, God knows what could have happened the rest of last season. It pains me to think about, but yeah, give me the Notre Dame game. Let the game in. We were up 14-13, I think it was.
Yeah, 14-13 with 6 to go. Yeah, that definitely that one's it's a solid choice, but like for me, this one is just kind of really far fetched. But it was like one game that like if Duke wins that's so much clout like for life. At halftime of Duke versus Louisville in 2017, fall
the Lamar year.
fall of 2017, Duke was up 9-6 at halftime. They held Lamar. Our defense back then was god dang awful. I mean, it was literally like stale piss. It was bad. And I mean, your starting offensive line had your starting defensive line had AJ Wolf on it. Like, no offense to Wolfie, but like, dude wasn't good. And those were kind of some dark ages. Like we were going to bowl games literally off of Daniel Jones's back, like 7-5, 6-6, heading to Shreveport, heading to Detroit. But like, man, that Duke team had only lost one game up until they had played Louisville. And if we beat Louisville in that game, I mean, Daniel Jones stays hot, that would be crazy.
I've got one for you guys. I'm going to go back even further.
I know what you're gonna say.
I'm going to pick the Chick-fil-A Bowl.
Yep.
Oh, son of a bitch. Good
I'm
call.
going to pick the Chick-fil-A Bowl. If we could just quit that game after the first drive of the third quarter and let us just beat Johnny football and get to win number 11 on the season, just imagine what we would have, the hype we would have had going into the next year. Because like we still won 9 games the following season. Like it wasn't like we sucked.
No, we were solid the next year.
But had we beaten Johnny Manziel in that last game and trounced them like we were in the first half, we would have went into that next year like preseason ACC like favorites.
Yeah.
Just off of like that. But I feel like that game alone like killed everyone's hype for like Duke football because it just was so. The takeaway went from being, oh my God, Duke's beating Texas A&M with Johnny Manziel by 30 to Johnny Manziel came back down 35 and beat Duke.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, it was it was 28-7 at halftime. Makes me so mad.
I've got friends who were there and they talk about like they say like that first half was like the greatest half of Duke football they've ever watched.
I've never had more fun in like an hour and a half of my life. And then to have that preceded by the worst 2 hours of my life for sure. That was pain.
I'll also say that I still replay that Jameson Crowder block every day in the back of my head, where
God,
he
pilled
I don't
that
know
fucker.
the defender, but yeah, he absolutely murdered a man.
And he fucking pilled that dude. I'm pretty sure it was Josh Sneed that scored too. Shout out Sneed.
I'm also going to say, like, real quick, an honorable mention for me is going back to Elko's first year. I'm going to pick the Carolina game at Wallace Wade when we scored the touchdown to go up with like a minute and a half left, simply because had we won one more conference game that year, whether it had been the Pitt game, the UNC game, we were going to be in the ACC championship game that year.
Pretty crazy.
So like beating Carolina, if we would have stopped when we went ahead when we did, we would have been in the ACC championship game with the schedule playing out the way it did after that. So I feel like that's an honorable mention, but that A&M game is just forever like etched into my brain as the biggest, like, how do we lose that one?
And, with that Carolina game, like, not just that, but like that would have ended the skid. Like, because now it's been like 6 straight years without beating Carolina in football. That would have ended the losing streak, would have given us the victory bell back, would have been a home win against Carolina, would have rushed the field. I mean, just.
Sorry, that's what this year's for, baby.
That's right. We'll do it at home this year.
Can we rush the field against a team that's 1-4 when they come to see us, bro?
Hey, arch rivals.
Yeah, we'll see how
they rushed the field when they beat us last year with Grayson Loftus. We're rushing the field this year.
Yeah, that is true. That was kind of mid of them.
All right, so our next question, this is just our boy Jamie Holt. He says, "Do you ever wonder where Noah's shoes are?" And
I'd feel like they're just in a Hall of Fame somewhere. Like, how did somebody not keep those and like put them in the like case with like the picture of the field storm? You know what I mean? Like, somebody didn't really let me down.
It's like in the Titanic Museum when they have like shoes of the survivor or like the people who died that they found on the ocean floor with like a plaque, except it's like you're celebrating instead of mourning.
Yeah, 100%. Like they should take a pic. They should have found me like on the beach volleyball lot, like parking lot camera, throw it up in the sand, and then they should have like screenshotted that and then put it in my shoes.
You threw up in the sand?
Yeah, the beach volleyball lot, like at the very bottom of the B lots. I was like trying to walk down and I stumbled into the sand and started throwing up. and I had no shoes on, so then my feet got sandy. But throwing up's what got me to shoes.
All right, so here comes another good one from our guy Bobby Boone. We all love Bobby.
Bobby,
Bobby is the scumbag of all scumbags.
Robert.
Bobby has a banger of a question here, fellas. Duke basketball has 13 retired numbers. Duke football has 0. Who and why should have their Duke football number retired? So we'll go Noah, Eli, and then I'll wrap it up.
I've got two. One's Sonny Jurgensen. Feel like there's no way you can't put Sonny Jurgensen in like a Ring of Honor. And my second one would be Jeremy Cash for
Son
sure.
of a bitch.
What, did I just walk off your whole board?
Let me go find a new one.
Dude, it's so clear cut for me. Like Sonny Jurgensen is like one of the best NFL like players. Like, I mean, if you look at what he was doing in that era, he's like specifically one of the top 5 QBs of that generation. And like he was a Blue Devil, did a lot of winning when he was at Duke too. So, and then Jeremy Cash, all ACC Defensive Player of the Year, and just, I mean, to come in and do what he did at Duke for 3 years was unreal.
Yeah. Now I will say, shit. I mean, and this is actually a conversation I was having with Bobby recently, I think, about like, hey, like if you look at like Wallace Wade on Blue Devil Tower, there's like the deck where the Laney Haglers of the world sit, like the outdoor seats on Blue Devil Tower, but there's like concrete that's just like blank. And you go to any other stadium, State has it, Carolina has it, any other stadium has it. They'll have like names of notable former players and retired numbers, even if not numbers, just the names, just to recognize. And I was like, why doesn't Duke have that? So when I think about names of Duke players that should be up there, I think guys who spent time in the NFL, I think their NFL careers, if they had one, definitely play into it, if that makes sense. But if not, like you said, Jeremy Cash, he didn't do much in the NFL, but like because of he was so dominant and elite at Duke, that in itself is reason to put his name up there. But like you said, Sonny Jurgensen, obviously. If I had to think of some other guys, Mike Curtis, who was a linebacker with the Seahawks for a long time back in the 60s and 70s, he's one that comes to mind. Who else is there? Let me think. Would you guys say Daniel Jones?
No.
Well,
I mean,
even if it wasn't,
didn't win enough.
I think like the fact that he, first round draft pick in the NFL, huge contract, he's had some success in the NFL. I just think that if you were to ask a casual today about, like a former Duke player in the NFL, I think Daniel Jones always
100%.
What they're going to say.
Yeah. You ask any Duke basketball only fan to name a Duke football player, they're saying Daniel Jones or Riley Leonard.
Daniel Jones.
Riley Leonard.
Yeah, Riley Leonard.
Like a loser. Goddamn fucking fraud, baby. Can't wait to watch Notre Dame go 3-9 with him flinging the ball for 7 yards downfield max.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a whole another discussion.
Holy mid.
Holy mid. But yeah, I mean, I think those 3 definitely. Also Cutcliffe. I think we should have former coaches' names up there too. Spurrier should be up there. I mean, the dude won the fucking ACC.
Wallace, Spurrier, and Cut should all be up there.
Yes, Wallace Wade, Spurrier, David Cutcliffe.
Mm-hmm.
What about Kurt Roper? Anybody? Zach Roper, maybe.
Ted Roof. Sorry.
No.
Yeah.
Somebody say Roofy. Ted Roofy to my football team.
Okay,
Ted Roofy to my football team.
I'm gonna go off the cuff here because I'm just trying to think because me and Noah had the exact same people.
Bitch.
I'm gonna name 3 names real quick.
Whoa! I got one more.
Let's hear it.
Thad Lewis.
Thad, yeah, you could definitely retire Thad because he like that. The reason I wouldn't put Daniel Jones in over Thad Lewis is because Thad actually won with literally nothing besides Connor Vernon. Like no defense at all. Like Daniel Jones, like if he had anything, he had a somewhat tolerable defense.
It's like Caleb Williams at USC. He could score 50 points and still lose because the defense was so ass.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Thad could throw for 450 and they would lose by 38 points.
All right, so my first one here, and I think this one's going to get a lot of love. Ross Martin. I'm going to put Ross up for it. Just, you got to have a special teamer in there somewhere, and that dude was automatic. Like he was the best kicker we've ever had, probably will ever have. With all due
He's one of the
respect
best.
to
He's one of the best kickers in ACC history.
yeah, with all due respect to Big Rod Todd, like Ross Martin was just on a whole different like playing field. My second one, and this is gonna have some recency bias to it, but who cares? Do we retire Dwayne's number?
Yeah, yeah,
Like I feel
yeah.
like that one's
He's the biggest, like most influential, like at his time at Duke. Like for what he did for Duke. Like he just everything he did was for the love of the school, not for like he put Duke before anything. You know what I
Yeah.
yeah,
mean?
like even football aside, like he was like they called him Mr. Duke. Like that was I feel like he's got to be up there. Um and for this next one, I'll let you guys pick one or the other, if not both. Crowder and Vernon, I feel like.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
could
I was just
see
thinking
both
about those
being up
guys
there.
too.
Absolutely. Crowder was just so good, and so was Vernon, man. Vernon broke the records and stuff, and
Let's say
Crowder just
Vernon
caught
broke all
so
the
many
records.
game-winning touchdowns. It was ridiculous. Like if Duke was down three, they could quadruple cover, blanket, and try to tackle Jamison Crowder while the ball was in the air, and he was still coming down with it.
So as of right now, because now I'm going to look up, I want to see if Vernon still has the record or not, because I'm curious. I know at one point in time, I know he broke the receptions record a while back when he was there, but I don't know if anyone's broke it since. Oh, Crowder has it. Yeah. Oh no, so Crowder and Vernon are tied still to this day for the receptions record. You guys
That's
want to know a
crazy.
crazy stat? Jalen
So,
Calhoun is fifth.
oh my God.
Whoa.
If he would have
I would
dropped a fifth less of those balls, he'd be in first.
I would not have pictured Jalen Calhoun as fifth all time in ACC receptions. TJ Ramming is tied with him for
Oh,
fifth.
TJ is raw, bro. I don't care what anybody says. I've seen a lot of TJ Romming slander, and I will not stand for it.
So here's a wild stat. Now that I'm looking at it, Duke has one, two, three, four receivers out of the top six all time in receptions in ACC
Hell yeah.
history.
And those guys are all like
Did,
the last 15 years. That's a
wide
Cutcliffe effect.
wide receiver,
That's
you.
yeah. I mean, honestly, that's wild. Crowder and Vernon are tied for first. Calhoun and Ramming are tied for fifth. That's I had no idea. That is actually absurd that they're all tied together. That's crazy. So our next question is going to be our boy Ryan again. Ryan says Drew did a really good job in episode 3. We appreciate that. Drew knocked it out of the park. Question 4: Do you think, or who do you think you would bring back for this year's squad? And it can be any former Duke player. So
Jeremy
any former
Cash.
Duke player to bring back to this year's team, who would you pick?
I'm just gonna keep this one short and sweet. It'll always be Jeremy Cash.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Jeremy Cash. Jeremy Cash, or if we're taking like, is this just like hypothetical, like regardless of like where the biggest needs are, like just anyone?
yeah, just
Essentially, yeah.
anybody.
Probably I would go Jamison Crowder, just let him go downfield and just let Malik just launch all day.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
Malik to Crowder all day long.
That just made me come.
500 yards every game, 5 TDs a game, 4 of them are to Crowder.
Oh, God
So
dang.
I'm gonna go 2 answers. So the first one I'm gonna go off a need, and that's gonna be Lucas Patrick. I'm gonna bring Lucas back, stick him on
Goat.
the O line. But my dream one that I would bring back, and Jeremy Cash would obviously be one of the answers. But I'm gonna bring back, and no one mentioned, I'm gonna bring Ben back and stick Ben with Trey Freeman.
That'd be the craziest. I mean, Michael Jackson said it ain't always black and white, but if that was them two, boy, it would be all the time. That would
Ben
be the
Humphreys with Trey Freeman is just
crazy.
scary.
Oh
Mm.
my God. Because like they're the same kind of person, dude. Like them boys go hard, like they are CTE certified. Them boys hit.
CTE certified.
Them boys hit. Give them a scholarship, baby. Antonio Brown University.
All right, so this next question, uh, he asked two, but our boy Krim asked, is Duke going to win the national championship in the next 20 years? I mean, I'm going to say yes, but
I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, no.
it's doubtful. I'm going to say yes. Just, I think, why not? Now his next question, he says, who are the best freshmen this year that will make an impact, or a player we didn't see last year that will make an impact? And he says there's two clear answers. Now, I know my answer. Like, I'm going to exclude Peyton Jones from this conversation for me personally. There's one or two others I'm looking at, but we'll go Noah Eli, and then I'll wrap it up.
Okay, so my freshman to watch out for that we haven't really talked about any is Tyshawn Reed, defensive end, Colquitt County, big old Colquitt County fella. Dude's 6'4", 225, great build, true freshman. Hope to see him on the field. And offensively, it's going to be Chase Tyler. I feel like. I mean, that receiver room's loaded, but like Manny knows something about Chase Tyler, man. Like, you can't keep a player like that out of a football game.
Oh, absolutely.
God, I wasn't prepared for this one. Freshman that I think is gonna make the biggest impact.
Or somebody that like hasn't got much playing time. Could be, sophomore, junior, senior.
Oh yeah, somebody's I mean shit, Jaquez. He had playing time last year. He had good yards last year for what, the touches he got. But I think with Quez being running back one this year, I think we're gonna see him go crazy. That might be a surface level take, but that's if I had to
No, that's
choose one guy.
completely valid.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
if I had to
very
choose one
valid.
guy who I was gonna have a lot more production this year now that he's getting a shot, it's Jaquez.
So I've got two right here. One of these Noah's going to really appreciate. The first one I'm going to go with, I didn't go with Chase Tyler. I went with Sean Brown
Yeah,
out of
dog.
East Forsyth. He'll be a redshirt freshman this year. He's fast, dude. Like, Duke is possibly, like, they're the deepest receiving room we've ever had. It's also probably the fastest top to bottom. Like, we've got some absolute burners on the outside this year. The other one is going to be Musa Kane.
What's up?
I'm still big on Musa Kane. He's a 6'1" freshman playing quarterback, and that's all I care about. He's 6'1". He is going to be an absolute dog. When he was brought into Duke, he was listed as the number 44 ranked athlete in the entire country.
Mm.
He was the number 5 recruit out of the state of New Jersey that year. So I have high hopes for Musa Kane coming up.
Dude, can I have one more defensively?
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about them much, but like shout out Western North Carolina. There's some good football recruits up there in the mountains, man. You just got to go find them. Not very marketed, if you know what I mean. Tyler, I know you definitely get that because your playoff games that y'all have seen up in the mountains. That ain't no slouch. And Deshaun Stone, true sophomore, 6'3", 190 pounds. AC Reynolds.
Big
AC
country.
Reynolds. Yeah, no, he's a safety. Deshaun freaking Stone, man. Safety. 6'3", 190. Like freshman. Bro, come on. Let's see that on the field this year. Let's see him go pop some heads. That's a DeAndre Singleton build, except taller.
All right. And so our last question comes from our boy Drew again. And Drew said, wow, what a fitting time to bring this up. Conference realignment. What would you like to see happen to the ACC, and what are your concerns? So I'll get this one started. Honestly, as far as the ACC goes, I'm fine if it blows up. Like, I don't think conferences and all, like, with how spread out they're getting now, conferences don't really mean that what they meant 10 years ago, let alone 15, 20, 30 years ago. I just want Duke to end up in the conference where they've got the best shot to win, where they've got money and they can recruit. And if that's not the ACC, then it's not the ACC. If it's not the ACC, I'd love to see Duke go to the Sun Belt. I think that'd be awesome. But in reality, Duke's got to be in the Big Ten. And I think that's why they are starting to prioritize football so much, because they understand the ACC doesn't have long left, And if they don't start to take football serious and take it like serious now, they're going to get left behind and end up in like the American Athletic Conference, which is cool because
Okay,
we'd win games, but we're going to get no like national attention ever.
so I definitely think the demise is probably going to happen, but I literally read this morning, and this is going to piggyback off of your thing right there, Tyler. So as of today, we had heard all that smoke about everybody, Clemson and a couple of others that had already joined Florida State behind closed doors. That got debunked in federal court today. And the Florida State is the only team that tried to get out of the contract. Clemson and everybody else essentially, like, I mean, under oath had to say that, like, no, no, and the ACC also was like, yeah, it's not them. It's literally just Florida State. And apparently the voting and the motions did not go well. And it's tied up till 2036. There's nothing that can happen essentially. Unless Florida State comes up with that 500 plus $1 million, they can't leave. But nobody else is actively trying to right now. So that's good news for longevity. But I would imagine in 10 years, because it's not that long, like it's not that far off. You just got to think, I mean, 2036 is essentially 11 years from now. And like then it's going to be over. Well, eventually it's not going to exist. The SEC and the Big Ten are forever, but the ACC still got 8 to 10 left.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. We haven't Eli. We haven't really talked much about this with you. What's your thoughts on like the whole realignment stuff, like conferences changing, like where you want Duke to end up?
I don't like it, man. I don't I'm not as in the know as you guys are with the realignment and whatnot, but just having Cal, Stanford, and SMU join the ACC today is just odd. I don't. I've never thought about Duke being anywhere but the ACC. As weird as it may sound, I kind of like that we're in the ACC. I think it's fitting for Duke, in terms of where they are as like in terms of strength as a football program. I think the ACC is the right place for them. As far as a possible landing spot, if things were to just go to shit and they were forced to go somewhere else, it's hard to say. I haven't put much thought into it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
mean
got
here.
I the Big Ten. I like just what Tyler was saying. I feel like the SEC will never be like an option. Not necessarily because the SEC wouldn't want us, but like if we went to the SEC, we would be Vanderbilt. Like we would literally be Vanderbilt. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
It would not matter anymore. But in the Big Ten, like Northwestern has won the Big Ten West before. You know what
Well,
I
and
mean? Like
the Big
teams.
Ten,
And we play Big Ten style of football most of the time. I mean, pretty realistically.
the Big Ten has enough teams that I would consider quote like average or below average to where we could still have good years. Like you got the Michigan States, Maryland, Nebraska's, like Purdue, Illinois, Indiana, Maryland. Like there's enough teams in the Big Ten where if we went in there, we could scrounge up 6, 7 wins a year still. We
Yeah.
go to the SEC, and unless we're playing Vandy, South Carolina, not even them really anymore. That's like the only guaranteed win we'd have in the SEC every year, without like us having to like seriously fight to like improve. But I mean, here's the only thing with the ACC, and it football reigns supreme now, and the ACC tried a long time ago when they brought in Miami and Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech held their own till Beamer left, and now it's just all downhill. Miami's just never going to be Miami again. So the ACC just tried to do the right thing. It blew up, and then they went and said, "Let's just grab basketball schools, the football powerhouses that are Pitt, Louisville, and Syracuse." So like it's just the ACC is probably going to remain a conference. It's just a matter of is staying in the ACC long term going to kill Duke? Because if Duke's going to stay in the ACC and fall behind, like the Big Ten and SEC schools next year projected to make 60 to 70 million more than every ACC school on average, and that's till our contract runs out in 2036. So like that's falling behind a lot for a program trying to like take football seriously. Um, but So that we're gonna wrap that one up there. Noah's got some big news to break about our next episode dropping this weekend. I'll let him get into that real quick before we send this off.
So, guys, you know, this pod is about 4 months old now. We've eclipsed over 350 followers. We really appreciate it. Essentially gaining 100 followers a month is awesome. And without all the support and the interaction, just retweets and things, a lot of people might not see it. But I want to give a shout out to everybody that participated and helped out because a former Duke Blue Devil from the David Cutcliffe era. Not gonna give the name out yet. Kind of want it to be a surprise, because it's a guy that he played really well on some defensives and some defensive systems that weren't that great. That made guys and put them in positions they didn't need to be in schematically. So really, really looking forward to bringing him on. We're going to talk everything David Cutcliffe era. I mean, any questions you guys got, he's willing to answer openly. Be very. We've talked about it a little bit, and he's really excited to talk about just how cool Cutcliffe was. What Cutcliffe was like, the day-to-day life of a Duke football player. Some really good insight, and that might not translate to what it is now, but it's from the peak years of our youth, and even the older people listen to this, it's the peak years of Duke football in all of our lifetime. So we're really looking forward to having a Cutcliffe theme episode. And just drop all the questions you guys have for us, anything you guys want to know about those years. The dude's well versed in Duke football knowledge, so really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Like this has taken off a lot quicker than I ever thought it would. So I want to thank you to everyone that's listened, supported, liked, followed us. And by the way, if you're not following us, we're on Twitter at GA Scumbags1. Go ahead and follow. A little bit of housekeeping. We're going to remove everything from all of our platforms except YouTube till football season starts up. So from here on out, we are only going to be on YouTube. Our link is going to be on our X bio. We're GA Scumbags, a Duke football podcast. That's exactly what that's what the YouTube account name is. But once the season starts up, we'll try to get back onto those. It's just a little too much of a headache to try and process all of those, and they mix the episodes up sometimes. But thank you to everyone that's listened. Eli, we're glad you're here from here on out. It was great. You killed your first episode. And until this weekend, DDMF.
DDMF.
DDMF.